If you're watching this, I am dead. My name is Elias Vane. I'm 94 years old. Was 94 years old. I suppose the tense matters now, doesn't it? Grammar in death. How fitting for a man who spent his entire life obsessed with precision. I need to tell you something. I need to. I don't have much time. Well, that's a lie, isn't it? I have no time. The time ran out, but you have time. You, whoever you are watching this, you still have time. Let me tell you how I found out. It was a Thursday, March 14th, Pi Day, if you care about that sort of thing. I remember because Mrs. Chen at the bakery had made these little pies with the numbers 3.14 printed on them in icing, and I'd bought one on my way to the appointment, held it in my lap in the waiting room. The box was warm. I could feel it through my trousers, this little rectangle of warmth. And I remember thinking how strange it was that something so small could generate heat like that. The doctor's office was cold. They always are. That industrial air conditioning that makes everything smell like recycled air and hand sanitizer. Dr. William called me in at 2:17. I know because I checked my watch, a 1952 Omega Seamaster. I'd restored it myself in 1978, replaced the mainspring, cleaned the escapement, polished the case until you could see your face in it. It was running 4 seconds fast that day. I'd been meaning to adjust it. He didn't waste time. I appreciate that about him. He's a good man, Dr. William, efficient. He pulled up the scans on his computer screen, those strange black and white images that look like weather patterns, like storm systems, and he said, "Mr. Vane, your heart is failing." Just like that, present progressive tense, not will fail or might fail, is failing, happening right now in this moment as we speak. Congestive heart failure, he said, advanced. The left ventricle isn't pumping efficiently anymore. Fluid building in the lungs. 6 months, maybe 8 if I was lucky. There were treatments. Of course, there are always treatments. But at 94, with a heart that's been beating for more than 3 billion times, well, the machine wears out. Even the best maintained machine wears out. I sat there looking at those scans, and all I could think about was the pie in my lap. It was probably getting cold. And I thought about my watch, about those 4 seconds it was running fast, and how I'd never adjust it now. 4 seconds. In a lifetime of seconds, what are 4 more? That's when I felt it. This thing I can only describe as awareness. Like when you're in a dark room and someone turns on a lamp, and suddenly you can see all the furniture you'd forgotten was there, except the lamp was my own mortality, and the furniture was every single moment I'd let slip past me while I was bent over a workbench with a loop screwed into my eye socket, counting the teeth on a gear wheel. The clock started ticking, except it had always been ticking, hadn't it? I just hadn't been listening. I want to tell you about my grandfather. His name was Samuel Vane. He died when I was 11, but before he died, he taught me everything. It was the summer, July, I think, maybe early August. The war was happening, but it felt far away when you were a child in Connecticut. My parents had sent me to stay with him in his shop in New Haven because my mother was pregnant with my sister and needed rest. That's what they told me. I think they just wanted me out of the house. My grandfather's shop was on Chapel Street, tucked between a pharmacy and a shoe repair place. The sign outside said Vane and Son Horologists. Even though my father had never been interested in clocks, had gone into insurance instead. I think that disappointed my grandfather, though he never said it directly. The shop smelled like machine oil and old wood and this specific type of metal smell that I've never encountered anywhere else. Brass, maybe, or the particular combination of brass and steel and gold and silver all mixed together in the air, and cigarette smoke. My grandfather smoked Pall Malls, lit one after another, let them burn down in an ashtray while he worked. The first day I was there, he sat me down at his workbench, not his main bench, but a smaller one he'd set up in the corner, and he put a pocket watch in front of me. It wasn't running. The crystal was cracked. The case was tarnished. Take it apart, he said. I was 11 years old. I said, I don't know how. He looked at me over his reading glasses. He had these thick eyebrows, white like caterpillars. Then you'll learn, he said. And he handed me a set of tools. It took me 3 days to disassemble that watch. 3 days of carefully removing screws smaller than grains of rice, of lifting gears with tweezers, of organizing every tiny component on a white cloth so I wouldn't lose anything. My grandfather watched, but didn't help, didn't tell me what to do. Just watched and smoked and occasionally nodded. When I finally got down to the last piece, the balance wheel, this delicate thing that oscillates back and forth, dividing time into measurable units, I held it up to the light and I saw how it worked, really saw it, how the hairspring coiled and uncoiled, how the escapement released energy in precise increments, how every single piece depended on every other piece to function. It was like seeing the clockwork of the universe, like God had shown me the blueprint. Now put it back together, my grandfather said. That took me 2 weeks. 2 weeks of trial and error, of pieces that wouldn't fit right, of having to take everything apart and start over because I'd installed something backwards. My grandfather never got impatient, never told me I was doing it wrong, just waited. When I finally got it working again, when I wound the crown and heard that first tick, 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 I started crying. I don't know why. I was 11 years old and I was crying over a pocket watch. And my grandfather put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "That's good, Elias. That's very good." He died 3 weeks later. Heart attack. Massive. He was at his workbench when it happened. A 1890s Waltham Railroad watch disassembled in front of him. He'd removed 17 screws before his heart stopped. At the funeral, I remember thinking he ran out of time right in the middle of a repair. He ran out of time. I think that's when it started. This compulsion, this need to finish what he'd started, to keep the clocks running, to never let time stop. I took over the shop when I was 23. My father didn't want it. My uncle didn't want it. It was going to be sold, turned into a hardware store or something equally mundane. And I couldn't let that happen. So I borrowed money, bought out my father's share, kept the sign the same, Vane and Son. except now I was the son, and I worked God how I worked. Let me tell you about a specific repair. I need you to understand what I did, what I devoted myself to. A woman came into my shop carrying a LeCoultre Atmos clock. Do you know what those are? They're these incredible mechanisms that run on tiny changes in temperature. The air expands and contracts, and that powers the clock. They can run for years without being wound. Perpetual motion, nearly. A miracle of engineering. But this one wasn't running. The woman, her name was Margaret something, never caught the last name. She'd inherited it from her father, and it had stopped working 20 years ago. She'd taken it to 3 other horologists. All of them said it couldn't be repaired. The mechanism was too delicate, too specialized. Parts weren't available anymore. I told her I'd look at it. I spent 6 months on that clock. 6 months. I had to fabricate parts from scratch, had to teach myself the specific mechanics of the Atmos system, had to calibrate the balance wheel to tolerances of less than 1/10 of a millimeter. I worked on it every evening after closing the shop, weekends, holidays. My wife, this was before Eleanor died, she used to bring dinner to the shop because I wouldn't come home. I remember one night in February, must have been 2 a.m, I was adjusting the suspension spring for the 100th time, and I finally got it. I felt it click into place, felt that perfect tension, and I set the clock on the shelf and I watched it. Watched that balance wheel start to move back and forth, dividing time. It was working. After 6 months, I'd done what 3 other craftsmen said was impossible. I called Margaret the next morning. She came to pick it up that afternoon. She cried when she saw it running. Actually cried. Said her father used to sit and watch this clock for hours, used to call it his meditation. Said she'd thought that connection was lost forever. She paid me $200. I'd spent probably 300 hours on the repair. That's 67 cents an hour, less than minimum wage. But I didn't care about the money. I cared about the clock. I cared about keeping time moving, about maintaining order in the universe, about making sure that somewhere in someone's home, a mechanism was measuring seconds with perfect precision. I cared about everything except the time itself. Do you see? Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I could disassemble a chronograph with 40 separate complications. I could regulate a tourbillon to within 2 seconds per day. I could restore a 17th century long case clock until it ran as smoothly as the day it was built. But I never, not once, stopped to ask myself what I was doing with my own time, the time I was spending, the time I was using up. I measured time. I regulated it. I repaired it. I worshiped it. But I never lived it. I never stopped working long enough to actually exist inside a moment instead of trying to capture it, contain it, control it. Eleanor used to ask me to take vacations. She'd show me brochures for trips, Ireland, Portugal, even just Vermont, just a weekend in Vermont to see the leaves. And I'd say, I have 17 repairs waiting. I can't just close the shop. These people are counting on me. These people, These strangers with their broken watches, they were counting on me. But what about Eleanor? Was she counting on me? She was. She was counting on me, and I was too busy counting seconds to notice. She died in 2009. Stroke, quick. She was here, and then she wasn't. Just like that, just like my grandfather. Time ran out. At her memorial service, someone gave me a hug and said, "At least you had so many years together." And I nodded, and I said, "Yes, 53 years." Because we'd been married for 53 years, I knew the exact number. But what I couldn't tell you, what I realized in that moment I didn't know, was what those years had felt like, what we'd done with them, what she'd wanted from them. I'd counted the years. I hadn't lived them. After the funeral, I went back to the shop. I had a 1960s Hoyer chronograph that needed a new mainspring. The customer had been waiting for 2 weeks. I thought, I'll just finish this one repair, just this one, and then I'll what? Grieve, rest, feel something? But I didn't finish it. I sat there at my workbench with the watch disassembled in front of me, all those tiny gears and springs and jewels laid out on the white cloth, and I couldn't make my hands work. Couldn't make myself care about the mainspring tension or the escapement angle or any of it. I looked at my own watch, the Omega. It was running 3 seconds slow by then. I'd never adjusted it after that appointment with Dr. William. 3 seconds slow. Time slipping away, unmeasured, uncorrected. And I thought, this is what I've done with my life. I've made sure everyone else's time was accurate while my own ran away from me. I'm 94 years old. I've repaired somewhere around 40,000 timepieces. 40,000. I did the math once. If you laid all those watches and clocks end to end, they'd stretch for nearly 6 miles. 6 miles of ticking, of measured seconds, of time made visible and quantifiable. But my own time, my own life, I couldn't tell you where it went. It's just gone, spent, used up on mainsprings and balance wheels and gear ratios. There was this one day, I think it was spring, maybe 1987 or 88, a Tuesday. I remember it was a Tuesday because Tuesdays were when the watch parts supplier delivered, and I was expecting a shipment of rubies for pivot bearings. The doorbell rang at the shop, and I looked up from my bench, and there was this light coming through the window, this particular quality of afternoon light, golden and thick, and it was illuminating all the dust particles in the air, thousands of them, millions, all suspended there, drifting. And for just a moment, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 10, I stopped. I just stopped working, stopped thinking about the watch in front of me, and I noticed the light, really noticed it, saw how beautiful it was, saw how it made everything in the shop glow. Then the delivery man knocked again, and I went to answer it, and I signed for the rubies, and I went back to work. And I never thought about that light again, not until now. Not until I'm dying and trying to grab onto any memory that isn't a watch mechanism, isn't a gear train, isn't another goddamn measurement of time. 5 seconds, maybe 10. That's how much of my life I spent just being, just existing in a moment without trying to measure it or fix it or improve it. The rest of it, I spent bent over a workbench counting teeth on a wheel while my wife ate dinner alone. While my daughter, I haven't even told you about my daughter yet. I will. I need to tell you about her, but not yet. I can't yet. While the world turned and seasons changed and people lived and died and fell in love and had children and bought dogs and planted gardens and learned to play guitar and traveled to countries I can't even pronounce. While all of that was happening, I was in a shop on Chapel Street, the same shop my grandfather worked in, adjusting the beat of a platform escapement. Tick, 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 tick. That's all I heard for 70 years. Just ticking, mechanical, precise, meaningless. And now I'm supposed to give you advice. That's funny, isn't it? What advice could I possibly have? Don't be like me. That's the obvious one. But let me try to give you something more useful than that, something you can actually use. If you inherit a mechanical watch, or if someone gives you one, or if you find one at an estate sale and you think it's beautiful and you want to keep it, listen to me carefully. Don't put it in a drawer. Don't let it sit. A mechanical watch needs to run. The oils inside, they congeal when the movement sits idle. They get thick, sticky. They cause friction. The watch will die faster sitting still than it will running. Wind it, even if you don't wear it. Once a week, take it out. Wind it gently until you feel resistance and let it run. 30 seconds. That's all it takes. 30 seconds of your time to keep something alive. And if it stops working, if it breaks, take it to someone who knows what they're doing. Not a jewelry store, not some kid at the mall kiosk. Find an actual horologist. We're dying out. There aren't many left, but we're still here, still fixing things. And we'll treat your watch like it matters, because to us, it does. Don't try to fix it yourself unless you know what you're doing. I've seen so many beautiful movements destroyed by well-meaning amateurs with screwdrivers from the hardware store. The screws are different. The tools are different. Everything is different at that scale. And this is important when you wind a watch. Stop when you feel resistance. Don't force it. Don't try to get one more turn out of it. That's how you break the mainspring. That's how you shatter something that took a craftsman hours to install. Stop when it tells you to stop. I wish I'd learned that lesson about life. Stop when you feel resistance. Stop when something tells you you're pushing too hard. But I never stopped. I never knew how. Here's what I regret. Here's what I need to say before I can't say anything anymore. I spent 70 years fixing clocks, 70 years obsessed with precision, with making sure every second was accounted for, every tick was exactly 1/60th of a minute, every minute was exactly 1/60th of an hour. Perfect, measurable, controlled. And I never stopped to enjoy the time passing, never stopped to live inside those seconds I was counting. I watched time, I regulated time, I repaired time, but I never used it. Never spent it on anything that mattered, never gave it to the people who needed it. I have 40,000 repaired timepieces out there in the world. 40,000. And I have one daughter who barely speaks to me, who didn't come to see me when I got the diagnosis, who I haven't had a real conversation with in 8 years. 40,000 strangers have my time. My daughter doesn't. That's the regret. That's what I did. Sarah, I need to talk to Sarah. Sarah, if you're watching this, and I don't know if you will, I don't know if you'll even want to, but if you are, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed your dance recitals. All of them. All 12 years of them. I told myself I couldn't close the shop. I told myself people were counting on me. But you were counting on me too, weren't you? You were 7 years old in that butterfly costume. Your mother sent me a picture. I still have it somewhere, and you were counting on me to be there. And I wasn't. I'm sorry I didn't walk you down the aisle. I know you said you didn't want me to, and I don't blame you for that. I don't. But I'm sorry I gave you a reason to not want me there. I'm sorry that by the time you got married, I was so much of a stranger to you that having me next to you would have felt wrong. I'm sorry I didn't meet your son until he was 3 years old. 3 years. And even then, I only saw him for an hour because I had to get back to the shop. I had a Westminster chime movement that needed regulation that was more important to me than holding my grandson. His name is Thomas. You named him after your mother's father. I know why you didn't name him after me. I understand. How could you name him after a ghost, after someone who was never there? I'm sorry I chose clocks over you. Every single day for your entire childhood, I chose clocks. I chose strangers' broken watches over your birthday parties and your parent-teacher conferences and your high school graduation. I chose mainsprings over you. And the worst part is I didn't even realize I was choosing. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was being a good provider. Your mother never complained. She should have. God, she should have screamed at me, thrown things, something, but she never did. She just got quieter and quieter until there was barely anything left of her but this sad patience. And you learned from that, didn't you? You learned that loving me meant accepting silence, meant accepting absence. So you stopped trying. You stopped inviting me to things, stopped calling, stopped hoping I'd show up. I remember the last real conversation we had. You were 36. You came to the shop. You didn't call first. You just came. And I was surprised because you never came to the shop. You stood in the doorway and you said, "Dad, do you even know me? Do you know anything about my life?" And I didn't know how to answer that. I knew your birthday, November 7th. I knew you worked in marketing. I knew you lived in Boston. But did I know you? Did I know what you were afraid of? What made you laugh? What you dreamed about? No, I didn't know any of that. You waited for me to say something. I remember you standing there, waiting, and I should have put down the watch I was working on. I should have stood up. I should have walked over to you and hugged you and said, "No, I don't know you, but I want to. Please teach me." But I didn't. I said, "I'm in the middle of something. Can we talk about this later?" And you said, "There's never going to be a later with you, is there?" Then you left. And that was 8 years ago. 8 years. And I never called, never reached out, never tried to fix it because I didn't know how to fix something that wasn't mechanical. Didn't know how to repair a relationship the way I could repair a movement. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I wasted my time and I wasted your childhood and I wasted every opportunity I had to be your father, really be your father. Not just the man who paid for things and lived in the same house, but the person who knew you, who loved you in a way you could feel. I loved you. I do love you. I just never learned how to show it, never made the time. And now I'm out of time, and that's my fault. That's all my fault. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. I just needed you to know that I know. I know what I did. I know what I didn't do. If Thomas ever asks about me, your son, my grandson, who I barely know, tell him his grandfather was a fool. Tell him his grandfather learned too late what mattered. Tell him not to make my mistake. Tell him to stop working sometimes. Tell him to watch his kids grow up. Tell him to be present for the people he loves, because that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing. The one truth I learned about life, here it is. Here's what 94 years taught me. Time isn't something you measure. It's something you spend. And you can't get it back. You can't repair it. You can't wind it backward and start over. It's not a mechanism you can disassemble and fix. It just moves forward 1 second at a time, and you have to decide right now, in this moment, what you're going to do with it. Are you going to spend it on things that don't matter, on work that will forget you the moment you're gone, on obligations that aren't really obligations, just excuses to avoid living? Or are you going to spend it on love, on people, on moments that won't last but matter anyway? I spent mine wrong. I spent it all wrong. And now it's gone and I can't get it back. And the people I should have given it to, my wife, my daughter, my grandson, they learned to live without me. They had to, because I was never really there. Don't do what I did. Don't wait until you're dying to realize you forgot to live. Don't count seconds when you should be experiencing them. Don't measure moments when you should be inside them. Just be there. Be present. Be alive while you're alive. That's it. That's all I have. That's the only wisdom I can give you. And it cost me everything to learn it. I don't know how to end this. I don't know what you're supposed to say when you're recording your last words. I've been talking for I don't know how long. My watch stopped. That's funny. It finally stopped. 70 years of keeping time, and my watch stopped before I did. Sarah, if you're listening, I love you. I always loved you. I just didn't know how to do anything with that love except feel it quietly while I worked on someone else's clock. To whoever else is watching this, use your time better than I did. That's all. Do better. I think I'm done now. I think that's everything. Goodbye. Goodbye.